And welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess, president of GlobalPro, where we manage risk to recovery, and we have managed more than $1 billion in recovery. We've represented thousands of community associations and business owners in all of their recovery efforts, and we understand what it's going to take to dig out from all of the damages that Hurricane Ian has caused. Whether you're in Cuba, the west coast of Florida, central, or the northern parts that are starting to feel its effects as it moves through Georgia and the Carolinas into the Northeast, we want to make sure that you continue to have all of the information you can use, and that's what this is all about. Our hearts and prayers go out to all of the victims of Hurricane Ian and those that are in its path as it continues to move up the East Coast. But remember, we're here for you, so let us know how we can help you. 855-487-7475, or check us out online at globalpro.com. We're one call or DM or a simple email message away from making sure that you as a policyholder are doing what you can to protect your interest. But we're also giving back to the community in a big way. It's a very big part of the culture here at GlobalPro to make sure that our communities build back stronger. It's so important that our focus is on the recovery efforts once the storm has passed. Making sure that if you're not in the immediate area, that you're doing what you can to give back to our community. Because if you're just a few miles away or 100 miles, these people need our assistance. Our communities need all of our help. And we've teamed up with Lifestyle in Miami. Check out their Instagram online, as well as many other organizations, to make sure that we make the greatest impact we can on our community. It's so important that this positive messaging go out, that we're all thinking this way and doing what we can. Because unlike some isolated issues, this is a massive storm that impacted entire country and now is impacting the Southeast United States and will continue as it moves up the East Coast to dump rain and disrupt business as usual. And we want to make sure our business owners are there after the storm to continue to provide services. They're the lifeblood of our economy. They drive, they create jobs, they create opportunities for all of us. We want to make sure that our homes and all of our things are taken care of. But you want to make sure that your loved ones have the basic necessities of life to continue. Whether that's water and food and clothing, shoes on your feet, we are doing our part. GlobalPro Cares Foundation was launched for that reason. My family's been in this industry for over 30 years, on the front lines of so many major disasters. And when I started GlobalPro 10 years ago today, I had one thing in mind. How can I help our communities? How can I help policyholders when dealing with major loss and disaster, build back better, stronger, and faster? And part of that is on the charitable side. Part of that is making sure that I'm doing my part and that my company and all of its employees are doing what they can to help all of you in our communities build back stronger, faster, and better. So if you need more information about that, I highly recommend check out our website, globalpro.com. If you go to the About Us section and you pull down to GlobalPro Cares, you'll see all the great things that we've done over the years. But that's not just to boast and pat ourselves on the back. It's to give you ideas of what you can do. Or go ahead and check out Lifestyle Miami's Instagram page. They got all kinds of information on there about all the things that they're doing down in Puerto Rico, in Cuba, as well as throughout Florida. They're going to continue to update that information, and we're going to be sharing that information on all of our social media as well. We're going to make sure that you have the information you need so that you're going to credible sources or credible outlets so that they can provide the resources necessary, again, to help our communities build back better, stronger, and faster. And part of that is dealing with insurance, okay? For our business owners and our community associations, where thousands of people live and work every day, have been infected by this major disaster. And as business owners and community associations, you're going to be relying on your insurance to help in those efforts financially, build back better and stronger, right? And certainly faster. Because with the money in your hand to help you build or rebuild from this loss and disaster, you're going to be able to do it better and faster. The issue, though, is that there are so many things that you can do within the first 48 hours to 72 hours that can cause your claim to be denied, underpaid, or delayed. And any one of those situations can force you to do things. The delay in a payment can force you to do things that you may not otherwise do that are in your best interest pursuant to the terms of your policy and the laws. There's other things you can do to get your claim denied. And a denial, and quite frankly, in the first 48, 72 hours, is just as bad as any sort of delay in the process. There's many denials that we see for hurricane-related claims or flood claims that get wrongfully denied because of a business decision made by an insurance company. All I have to do is flash back to 2017 when we had Hurricane Harvey and Irma and Maria and look at the hundreds, if not thousands of claims that were underpaid and denied claims. In fact, in GlobalPro, we handled dozens of claims that were denied within the first 4 months of reporting those claims to insurance companies. And all of them resulted in collectively millions of dollars paid to our policyholders. And the reason for that is because people confuse terminology. They report the claim to the wrong people or to the wrong outlet, and they make assumptions about certain damages or causes or extent of damage. They mitigate their own claim by attaching adjectives to describe the types of losses and damages they have, which are not necessary nor fall within the context of coverage within the policy and don't trigger the insurance company's obligation to pay. And we want to make sure that you're thinking this way, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on, and I know that you're under an immense amount of pressure, and I know that health, life, and safety of yourself and as well as those around you is certainly paramount. But those are the times, unfortunately, where big corporations take advantage of policyholders and unfortunately make decisions that are in their best interest and not yours. We're in a hard market. We're in a time when you're paying more for insurance than you ever have, but you're getting less coverage. We're adjusting claims based mostly on sublimits, not even the actual limits of a policy, which unfortunately was the focus typically of most banks and homeowners and business owners when placing it. But the reality is that they weren't looking for the sublimits. Those sublimits somehow creep up into the claims process and are going to cause issues and problems for you when making your claim and adjusting your loss. So I'm going to start right at the top with the biggest issue that I see plaguing most policyholders when they're going to report a claim. First of all, believing that anyone sent out by the insurance company, whether it's an adjuster or even your own broker, is there to represent your interest. In fact, if you look at the Florida laws under 626.855 and 626.856 and 626.862, the first of which is for independent adjuster, it specifically and directly says who undertakes on behalf of an insurer. That's the definition of an independent adjuster. Now, they use the word independent adjuster, which in itself is confusing. An independent adjuster is a contracted person or company that sends out people to your property to assess, who undertakes to ascertain and determine the amount of any claim, loss, or damage payable under your insurance contract or undertakes to effect settlement of a claim. Ironically, though, in today's world, that's not the case. The independent adjuster has no authority. Most often, they're there just to simply take photographs and collect information directly from you about the extent of the damages that you're making. Why? Because you have this obligation to prove your damages. However, they have no authority. They have no authority to make coverage determination. While they're allegedly undertaking to effect settlement, they're there on behalf, who undertakes on behalf of an insurer, just like any company adjuster. Few insurance companies actually still have company adjusters. Almost all adjusting work is done by these independent. They're not really independent. They're working for insurance companies. They're working on behalf of an insurance company that is paying their bills. And most of these adjusters have too many files. Why? Major consolidation in the industry. We see less adjusters in the field than we have ever seen before, meaning there's going to be more adjusters from out of state, out of country, coming into Florida and the other affected areas to adjust your claims. They're not going to be familiar with your building codes. They're not going to be familiar with the area. They're not going to be familiar with the local pricing, contractors, et cetera, et cetera. All the information you would possibly need to properly adjust and timely ascertain the amount of your damage, determine the amount of your loss. They fundamentally lack the competency to be able to do it for you. Well, I have to believe that that is strategically done to mitigate the insurance company's loss. Now, I am a policyholder advocate. That is my opinion of the situation. I've too often seen policyholders be subjected to delays and denials of claims because they were being honest about the situation. Like saying that on the 10th floor, our units were flooded with water. Well, that doesn't mean you're making a flood claim. That's just the word that came to mind at that time. But instead of taking that information and explaining to you that, well, that's not a flood, that's hurricane damage because you have water in the units, okay? And the actual building envelope failed, and now you have water damage in the units, you have hurricane damage to your property. They took that as an opportunity to simply report that the insured has only stated that there's flood damage to the property. And if you think that example is crazy, it's an actual example of something that happened after Hurricane Irma to more than one community association here in the South Florida region. Now, on the west coast of Florida, where we have a tremendous amount of experience managing claims for community association business owners, it was no different after Hurricane Irma. It's not going to be any different after Hurricane Ian. Believe me, these same tactics are going to be used. There's less adjusters, there's more claims, there's more responsibility on them to document files, but again, they have no authority. Your insurance agent, same thing. Unless they're authorized by the insurance company to adjust claims on their behalf, they're not there to legally adjust your claim. They may have claims people on staff to help you report your claim, and I air quoted that. Why? Because they themselves most often don't even have a copy of your policy despite them being the people that sold you it. That's true. Ask them for a copy of it. Look how long it takes to get it. If you haven't already collected the policy before the hurricane, believe me, it's going to take some time to get it after the hurricane because they don't have it. So how are they supposed to help you? Help you, the policyholder that suffer these damages, recover from your loss and damage. It's not that they're doing anything wrong. They're being humans, right? They want to try to provide some sort of effort or assistance to you to help you through the process. But that's not their role. They're there to sell a product, not to adjust the claim for you. Just like the independent adjuster and the company adjuster working on behalf of an insurance company. Well, who represents your interest? Licensed public adjusters or duly licensed attorneys that are contracted by you as policyholders to adjust the claim on your behalf. Now, like with any type of profession, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not that any public adjuster can handle any size claim or any type of claim. Check the credentials of any sort of professional that is offering assistance. Make sure they have qualified references. Make sure they have an expertise or the resources in order to be able to help you. The insurance coverage experts at GlobalPro have all of that. We have managed thousands of community association business claims over the year. We understand commercial policy forms, both for hurricane as well as for flood. And flood is very different than a hurricane, and having water on the 10th story, like I mentioned, is not a flood. That's hurricane damage. Be very specific about those things, but be very general about the extent of your damage. It's only going to help through the process because you are not an insurance coverage expert like those at GlobalPro. Again, if you haven't been doing this for more than a decade and solely focused on managing insurance claims or representing policyholders' interests, you are at a complete disadvantage right now. Don't think that, well, let me see what my insurance company is going to do for me. There's plenty of statistical evidence that shows and proves that with the representation of an insurance coverage expert at GlobalPro, you will recover more than if you do it alone. Why? It's not about diming the system or just getting more. It's that you're going to get what you're entitled to. We don't advantage ourselves by claiming more than you should get. We certainly don't advantage you by claiming less. We want to be precise about what we're making a claim for to expedite the process, to make sure that you get the greatest benefit from that product you are paying for. The product you are paying more for now than you have ever paid for before, with less coverage, more complicated coverage, more nuances inside those policies, which is going to make it harder and take longer for you to recover the money you're entitled to. So again, if you're a board member or a property manager for a community association, think about the fiduciary obligations you have to your other fellow unit owners. Think about the last time that you had to deal with a lawsuit or file your taxes. You didn't go it alone just because, well, you have some expertise or knowledge in taxes. No, you went and hired a CPA. You went and hired a lawyer to represent your interests in court or to deal with the threat of a lawsuit. So why is it, as board members, do you want to trust somehow at this moment, at this point in time, when you're at your worst, you want to trust and believe that your insurance company is somehow going to do the right thing, that the people that are representing only their interests are there for you, that your broker who sold you the policy, who has no involvement or has no actual legal right to adjust that claim for you, is suddenly going to step up and do what they can for you in this situation? You need boots on the ground. You need people in the property looking and identifying what damages you have at your property, analyzing your policy and coverages, looking at the case law, looking at the common law, understanding what your obligations are when reporting a flood claim or a hurricane claim, in dealing with the many people that are going to come out from the insurance company throughout the next months to look at your loss and damages. And it's not just going to be independent adjusters. It's going to be a bunch of paid-to-play contractors, building consultants, engineers that only work for insurance companies. We see it all the time. Again, they're there for the insurance company. A lot of them probably know more about your insurance policy than even the independent adjuster or the insurance company themselves or the representatives at the insurance company that are trying their best to do their job for the insurance company. So just understand that stuff. Another really important nuance is prompt reporting versus immediate reporting. We see after these major losses and damages, we see a lot of people focus on this idea of immediately reporting it because they think that they're somehow going to get in a line or a queue, that somehow by reporting the claim today, immediately, I mean literally immediately following the hurricane, there's still water in your property from the flooding event that occurred all last night, that they think by calling today that somehow they're going to get front-of-line service. And I'm telling you right now, that is not the case. Because the reality of it is that there are fewer adjusters than there are victims of this disaster. And what's going to happen is that all of the files are going to get assigned to the few adjusters that are going to be handling claims in your area. And remember, we're talking about a massive area. We're talking about several countries that have been affected by this, that are all digging in through the same resources, same companies that help manage these claims for insurance companies. They are going to be spread thin. And they're not going to look at to see who called first. What they're going to do is they're going to plot the files out on a map. They're going to schedule these things for a couple weeks out, and they're going to go in the geographic order that they can to hit the most amount of files as they possibly can. Now, that's okay in one instance, but not okay in another, because maybe the person that does call immediately rather than just simply promptly reporting a claim, maybe they do have an immediate need like a hospital or something like that, or maybe you are a community center like a church or a synagogue that's providing community services during this disaster recovery. Maybe that's the situation, but those are few and far between. Typically, these files, like your community association, losses will get assigned to 4 or 5 general adjusters, and then they will look geographically and look what's more convenient for them and what's the route going to be for them. They're not going to care that you called today when you're still pumping water out of the basement of a building, or that you're still boarding up the building because you lost windows, or installing scaffolding to shore up something that is collapsing due to the hurricane damage that you sustained, right? They're going to look to see how can they maximize the number of files. Why? Because a lot of times their compensation is tied to how many files they're managing, handling, not so much about the service that they're actually providing to you and how happy you are with it or you believe you may be, right? So consider that, because your policy requires prompt notice almost always. It stipulates prompt notice. Prompt notice could be a day, 2 days. It could be a week. It could be a month. It's when you are ready to make that claim and you have the information to prove your damages. And that may not necessarily mean it's today. In fact, I would struggle to believe that anyone could be making a claim for insurance right now, okay? Today, right? The claims process needs to start as promptly as possible. But again, focus on health, life, and safety. If you want to make immediate notice of your claim, a couple things to keep in mind. After the 2017 hurricane season, for the very first time, we heard of this nuance of wind-driven rain. Suddenly, hurricane damage was something other than hurricane damage. Be careful of it. Look at your policy, look for the provisions regarding wind-driven rain, and understand what it means for your damages. If your building envelope failed and you have water in your building, you have hurricane damages. Keep it simple. Keep it straightforward. Allow the insurance company to try to weave and fold these things into these limitations and exclusions. Don't make their job easy for them. But most importantly, document your damages before, during, and after your mitigation efforts. Really important. Never stop taking photographs. Stay away from video and narrations. It really doesn't help or serve anyone's interest. In fact, videos are very difficult to sort through a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years from now. Take photographs. Take photographs of everything. Even if you don't, quote unquote, believe that your damages are bad, or you think that you're not as bad as someone else, it doesn't matter. Take pictures of in and around your area, of your property, in as many units, as many balconies as you possibly can, on the roofs themselves if you can access them safely. Obviously, do this safely. Take photographs before, during, and after the mitigation efforts. Now, as far as mitigation efforts go, contractors are not licensed public adjusters. If a contractor is offering construction services, they cannot legally act as your public adjuster and adjust your claim for you. I don't care how much insurance experience they claim or allege they have. It's either they're there as your public adjuster or they're there as your contractor. They are not there to be both. They cannot be both. Cannot legally do both. So keep that in mind. If someone is offering those types of services, those dual track services, start questioning what they're doing. And I'm sure if you're a community association and there's a preferred vendor list that they're offering to you, and perhaps on that list is a mitigation contractor that claims they have public adjusters on staff or adjusters right there ready to help you, or a partnership with a public adjuster, that be the contractor, I would start questioning that contractor's role in it. It's understand what you're signing up for, understand what role that public adjuster is playing versus what that contractor is doing. It's really important to understand what role each of them have and play in the process. Again, having a public adjuster, huge proponent of it. I'm a huge fan of it. I totally encourage it. I absolutely encourage policyholders to have representation. But to make sure that you have your contractor services and then you have your public adjuster services. Very different and separate and apart. All right, you want to make sure that the public adjuster is looking for coverage, understanding what it takes to actually get your claim paid, making sure your contractor is submitting detailed invoicing with unit pricing, quantities, line item by line item about the efforts it took to help you mitigate and rebuild or protect your property from further damage. That's really, really important. I can't stress that enough. Again, contact your management company about preferred vendors. I'm sure they have on there some contractors, some public adjusters, some landscaping and tree services company. It's important that you have qualified people out there looking at these things for you. But understand, though, that a contractor cannot also adjust a claim for you. That's a really important distinction. Unfortunately, a lot of people fall victim of it, and next thing you know, they assign all their rights over to a contractor, which is a whole nother episode, and I refer you to our YouTube channel to check out some prior episodes on those specific issues. But this issue of assignment of benefits, there's going to be a lot of funny contracts out there, some interesting things that I'm sure offers that are going to be made. Just try to find someone local. Try to find someone that actually is familiar with the area. If you can't find them, and they are from out of state, doesn't mean they're always bad people. But check their references, check their contracts, make sure that they can legally offer the services which they're trying to provide you. And again, it's really important that you ensure that what you're doing and what they're doing is going to help you in your recovery effort, not become a hindrance to it. Otherwise, guys, we are here to help you. We want to make sure that you have what you need, whether it's for giving back to the community, whether it's for complying with your policy obligations. GlobalPro, again, we've been here doing this for over 10 years. We've represented thousands of community associations and business owners. We've recovered more than $1 billion. We've managed more than $1 billion in recovery. We understand what it's going to take for our communities to recover from these loss and damages. So reach out to us at any time, 855-487-7475. Check us out online at GlobalPro.com. There's a lot of information on there. But also, again, if you haven't already, follow us on all of the social media channels. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. We're going to continue broadcasting all of this messaging and information to you throughout the coming months, and making sure that you have all of the information you need as the recovery efforts unfold. It's really, really important. But this will be our last broadcast for quite some time from the Griffin studio. We are on the road already, boots on the ground in the local area, helping with community. I'm going to be joining my team there and making sure they have everything. We wanted to do one last sit-down conversation with everyone to make sure that we bang out the details, the important information right now. The 24-hour clock is starting to spin. The first 48 to 72 hours are the most critical to most insurance claims. Make sure you're getting out there, document your damages. Make sure you're accurately reporting things. Again, understanding the difference between prompt and immediate is really important. And understand who's there for you and who's there for the insurance companies. If there's anything we can do for you, let us know. We'll see you same place, same time right here at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the Recovery Report Live.